Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin. I am joined, of course, by my co-host, my brother in Joshi arms. It's only Matt Bloody Turner. Matt Turner, how are you?
Rob Goodwin, I am phenomenal, my friend. I mean, I'm always great, but I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped for every episode, but I'm really excited for this episode because this is our annual Cinderella tournament bracket. Now, not only do we have our brackets, my lovely wife, she submitted her bracket, and also we have the Final Four. We had a Final Four bracket submitted from the one and only Karen Peterson. So, folks, if that's going to be the main event of this show. So, if that doesn't rope you in to listen to the this entire episode, I don't know what will, but my friend, I'm super excited. You know, we have some good Stardom stuff to talk about. A lot of awesome news. Obviously, Philly Mania coming up. But before we get into all that, how are you, my friend? And did you by chance watch that spectacular AEW pay-per-view from this past weekend that I was telling you about?
I am watching it bit by bit. I've watched the vast majority of it. I've just got the final two matches to go. I feel like I need a little bit of time to watch the Sting match. Just, you know, to sort of work out the tears and things like that, because it's a monumental day. But I'm so happy for Sting because it's worked out beautifully. Like, you know, you hear some retirement matches and all the feedback is, Jesus, you know, maybe should have retired 6-7 years ago. And all of the feedback I've heard from this match is that it was the perfect send-off for Steve Borden. And you know what? You know, for someone who's been wrestling the entirety of my fandom, what a great way to go out.
Yeah, again, it was a solid show. I missed the first match by the time I got home from my side job. Literally, as I was walking into my house, Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson were getting ready to lock up. And I was like, oh, it's probably the match I'm looking forward to the most, other than the Sting match for obvious reasons. And then I just because it was late, I dozed off right when the semi-main event started, the three-way with Joe, Hangman, and Swerve, and I really wanted to see it. I just was watching it, and next thing I know, I woke up and Sting was making his entrance. I was like, oh, you know, I obviously bought the pay-per-view. I have it on the DVR, so I'll have to go back sometime this week and pick up those matches that I missed. But no, all in all, it was a phenomenal show and just a really great way to kick off the week in wrestling.
Sorry, took a really inopportune moment to eat an orange slice. Yeah, completely agree. Great pay-per-view, great top to bottom, so can't complain on that front. We've got the Cinderella tournament this week, as you've already mentioned, so that's looking very, very exciting. We've got some announcements regarding the Stardom Philadelphia show. We've got a Joshi legend being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. We've got a significant amount of Stardom talent on another show over WrestleMania week, which sounds very, very exciting. But before we get into all of that, and before we get into the all-important Stardom Cinderella tournament bracketology, where me and Matt make complete fools of ourselves as we try and work our way through the almost impossible quagmire of these brackets, let's talk a little bit about the Patreon. Matt Turner, what on earth is coming up on the Patreon this month?
On the Patreon, this past week, we released one of my favorite tag matches in Stardom history just from last year. It was the team of Saori Soriano and Natsupoi defending the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Championship against Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira, also known as Crazy Star. And just this morning, I had a few messages saying that how much everybody enjoyed not only that match, but basically the alternate commentary that we've been doing for the handful of months. So greatly appreciate all the fantastic positive words that have been coming our way, Rob, especially when it comes to the alternate commentary, because hopefully someday soon we'll be doing some commentary for some Stardom talent live somewhere in the near future. So this is almost kind of like our our tryouts that we kind of do on our own. So appreciate all the kind words. And then next week we'll be doing our alternate commentary of Momo Watanabe defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Jungle Kiona. Now this is for everybody that's followed Momo Watanabe's fantastic run with the white belt. This is the second match the two of them had. They had one, which I believe was Momo's V1 in Korakuen Hall. This is the second match, the one that took place in Jungle Kiona's hometown of Nagoya. So that will be on the Patreon the start of next week. And speaking of Jungle Kiona on the Patreon, Rob Goodwin, with the roundtable discussion, I'll be joined by Trent Brewer, as he's a huge Jungle Kiona fan, where myself and Trent will be looking at every single one of Jungle Kiona's, easy for me to say, Jungle Kiona's opportunities at the Wonder and World of Stardom Championship. So Trent he's fantastic. I'm a big fan of his work. Him and our good friend Scott E Wrestling, they do the Stardom Road. So I know he's a big fan of Jungle Kiona. It's always nice to go back and look at stuff that she's done on her career in Stardom. And the What If episode for this month, fingers crossed we can get it in for the month of March. I will be joined by the one and only Allison Danger. Now, the reason why I say fingers crossed is Allison has a pretty busy month in the month of March. I can't say why, but I did say this is what I want to do. She said, Matt, let's try to get it done for this month. If not, I might have to put something together kind of last minute just so there's some content out there. But what we are trying to do is myself and Allison Danger will be part of What If. And we'll be fantasy booking what if Miami Toyota was inserted into Stardom. So we're going to book one of the greatest, if not arguably the greatest women's wrestler of all time, inserted into Stardom. And I told Allison it could be any period in Stardom. So if she wants to book her in 2016 Stardom, 2017 Stardom, obviously Allison has a vast knowledge of Kairi Sane, Kairi Hojo, and one Io Shirai. So I said, you're the fantasy booker. You can book anything that you want with one Naomi Toyota. I'm probably going to book her probably in Stardom of 2022 just because that's my favorite year that Stardom ever had. I'm not sure. Once I start writing, I'll figure that out. And then for that Rossi Vice tier, that new $10 bonus tier, what we'll be releasing before the end of the month is I will be comparing and contrasting the Stardom World Climax shows, Night 1 versus Night 2 from 2022, just to see which show I like better. And I'll also be joined by my tag partner and good friend, Andy Hedder, as we will be doing a review of Stardom Shining Destiny 2019 that had the main event of Tam Nakano challenging Arisa Hoshinki for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. So, folks, that's what's coming up. That's what's already on the Patreon feed. That's what's coming up next week, and that's what you can look forward to between now and by the time Mr. Rob Goodwin gets on the plane to come to Philadelphia, because we're about a month away from that. Time is ticking, my friend. But yeah, exciting stuff going on the world of the Stardom cast, my friends.
I mean, I think I say this every single time we talk. I do not understand when you actually sleep and how long you actually sleep for. Because it cannot be for long. The amount of content you are mercilessly pumping onto the Patreon, I do not understand when you have time for sleep.
I try to get 5 or 6 hours a night, Rob, give or take. It's a lot of naps in between. There's usually a nap when I come home from work, and then usually when I'm on the couch watching TV with my wife, she just knows that I can go out anytime in the middle of Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, which is kind of our husband-wife time to watch TV. But yeah, it's a lot of naps. It's kind of like a lot of quick recharging. But no, it's I have an absolute blast doing all the content I do, not only for the Patreon but for the weekly feed as well.
Just on the point of Patreon, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to our latest patron, Mark Candlish. Thank you so much for joining our Red Belt tier. Your support, and all of you over at patreon.com/the StardomCast, all of your support is incredibly well acknowledged. Your support means a lot to us. It really, really does. Thank you so much. Before then, we kick into all things Stardom Cinderella tournament. We've got a couple of bits of news. First of all, heading to the Philadelphia show, Stardom American Dream 2024 in the Keystone State. This is Stardom's first US show, as everyone knows, since 2019. And the first talent has been confirmed. So these people will be at that Stardom show at the 2300 Arena, the ECW Arena, for us old 90s heads, on the 4th of April, that Thursday. From stars, we've got Mayu Iwatani and Momo Kogo. We've got Azumi from Queen's Quest. We have Starlight Kid and Momo Watanabe from Oedetai. Syuri from God's Eye. And then representing E-Nexus V, we have got Mina Shirakawa. So our first talent's confirmed, Matt. Some big names there. Obviously, we have got, everything we talk about news-wise sort of has that sort of shadow of the impending split, which we should be getting at the end of this month. We'll have more of an idea of what talent are going to be departing and moving on to Rossi Vice Wrestling. But big names there that have been confirmed, and obviously this is post-March, so you would assume that new contracts are in place with the exception of Mayu, because we know that her contract is longer because of the film. But big names there: Mayu, Momo Watanabe, Azumi, Syuri, Starlight Kid, Mina Shirakawa. Big names there, Matt. Are you excited?
Yeah, super excited. I know you are as well. As big as a fan I am of one Mayu, I know you are the biggest Mayu fan. So I know if there's one wrestler on the Stardom roster that you can pick to be on that show, and apparently on another show, which we'll get to in a minute,
yeah.
it would be one Mayu. So it might be Mayu WrestleMania weekend. I mean, it's and I know we'll get into it, but it almost seems like the Joshi scene is really taking over WrestleMania weekend, which is it's great. I mean, I couldn't really be happier. But yeah, a lot of names on there. If we get some sort of an Azumi versus Starlight Kid, either a singles match. Now, obviously, they've had so many singles matches, especially for the High Speed Championship. They had that great one back in February 2022. They had the phenomenal one, just as good, if not better, literally a year ago. Yeah, March of last year at the Triangle Derby Finals. But if they were to put that match in the hallowed halls of the former ECW Arena, I mean, I think that match people will be comparing that match to Malenko versus Guerrero some almost 30 years prior. I mean, because of that Malenko Guerrero classic matches they had back in 1995 in that very same building. They were really akin to just two wrestlers that were truly ahead of their time, which is Azumi and Starlight Kid. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me, are two wrestlers that are ahead of their time. And I would love to see them maybe they do it in a tag match, but I would love to see them have a proper singles match in that building. I think people in Philadelphia will absolutely lose their mind. But yeah, you mentioned that shadow of we're looking, as we're trying to see these cards that are coming up in the next month and change of who's staying, basically some hints of who's staying and who's going. Really seems like, I think even Azumi and Mina both said that they are staying. Obviously, they're booked for a bunch of shows in the States over the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is exciting in its own right. But then you kind of have to look at some of the other names that are on this. Mayu, I believe, again, you mentioned before, partner, her contract is a little bit longer because of the movie coming up in May. But one of the names that I was kind of, when this talent was announced, that I was kind of like, is that person staying, or is it they're doing freelance work, or did they sign a 6 to 8 week long contract? Was Shuri. Now it's no surprise that Rossi Vice Wrestling would want Shuri in their company. Anybody would. She's fantastic. You can make an argument that she's the best women's wrestler in the entire world. But I really thought that would be somebody that she may look to go to Rossi's company. Now, because she's on this show, does that mean she has re-signed with Stardom? We don't know. We're not going to speculate. It looks like it would, because why would they book her on this show in Philadelphia in the former ECW Arena, book a flight, and announce her on the first wave if she's not going to re-sign? Now, it's very likely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but Rossi back in 2019, he signed when he sold to Bushiroad, he signed a 5-year non-compete, which would take him until, I believe, the end of May, correct?
I believe so, yes.
So, I mean, it very well could be, she could have said, like, look, I'm going to go to Rossi's company, but at the same time, my contract is up in April. I'm basically a freelancer for April and May, and if I don't wrestle, I don't get paid. So it could be a possibility where she signed maybe a month deal, a 6-week deal, or maybe she's doing a per appearance situation, or she very much could have re-signed. Again, we don't know. We're not going to speculate too much, but wouldn't make sense that the roster that you just named, it looks like they're going to be with Stardom at least for the next 10 to 12 months. So yeah, interesting. Again, this is only just the first wave. I imagine Hazuki will be probably on the second wave, as well as Tam and Natsupoi. Hazuki was very adamant. I think she was one of the first people to tweet out that once they made the official announcement that Stardom was coming to the U.S., that she wanted to come to the U.S. to represent Stardom. Obviously, Tam has made it very apparent that she is going to be staying in Stardom, and Natsupoi, who will be returning, just did an interview with, it might have been Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine. I could be wrong, but she did make mention that she wants to be the face of Stardom for the next few years, and doesn't take a genius to figure it out that you can't be the face of a company if you're not signed to a contract. So I would not be shocked that in the next few weeks or an hour after we record, as it usually happens, Rob, that Stardom will announce that Tam, Natsupoi, and Hazuki will be coming to Philadelphia. So interesting names. I'm excited before. I'm excited. I'm more excited now. I know that as of yesterday, but New Japan put up a link to the website to buy the tickets, just because I was curious, because I'm a numbers guy. I went on to the ticket website where they had the seating chart, and there was one front row and one third row. And I clicked on the front row just because I was curious, and it said that ticket is no longer available. I clicked on the third row, and it said that ticket is no longer available. So it's not official yet, but it looks like that this thing is sold out. And for Stardom, who has not ran a show in the U.S. in 5 years, to sell out one of the most legendary buildings in all of professional wrestling, that's a huge, huge tip of the cap to Stardom.
Yeah, just speaking of the attendance and the tickets, there is currently one ticket left, second row, which is currently listed at $300, I believe. Which surely that's not right. Oh,
no,
no,
it is.
No, it's ringside. Yeah, it's ringside. It's $300. So there is currently one ticket. Now, make of that what you will. I know that technically it is not a sellout if they haven't sold all the tickets. However, I do consider this to be more or less a sellout. And I do anticipate them announcing that it will be a sellout, Matt, similar to what you said. Obviously, this is just the first wave of talent announcements. I know that we are missing significant names there from, all of the champions. We haven't got a single champion on there, bar Siori, of course, who is a third of the Artist of Stardom champions. And I think that's wise. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in between now as we record on the 6th of March and the 4th of April. Obviously, we've got the Cinderella tournament happening. We don't know who's going to be winning or even in the final, or if Saori Anou will still be the white belt champion who is going to be challenging Saori Anou, if that indeed is the match that they put forward for the American Dream show, which I am inclined to think that they probably will put that on this show. But, no Artist of Stardom champions in Mirai and Amisori yet, but they're both in the Cinderella tournament. No Goddess of Stardom champions yet, so no Saya Kamatani, no Utami Hayashishita, no Hazuki. Again, she is in the tournament. No Tam and Natsupoi. I would be incredibly surprised if we don't get Tam and Natsupoi in the next wave. Tam, of course, already sort of reaffirmed that she's going to be staying with the company, as you mentioned. I think it was Shupro that Natsupoi did an interview with where she wants to be the face. Again, you're absolutely right, Mate. You can't be the face of a company if you're not part of that company. And Micah as well, I think, is the big one. Julia. Obviously, Julia's contract is up soon. I do not anticipate Julia being on this show. But in terms of Micah, I imagine that Micah will also be on that next wave. Moving on then from the Stardom Philadelphia show, we're going to move on to what is almost a second Stardom show during Philly week, because Spark Joshi have announced several things to be perfectly honest. Their new show, or their show Trailblaze, which is going to be on Sunday, April 7th, which of course is the Sunday of WrestleMania weekend at the Monster Factory in Philadelphia. They're going to be running their show. Trailblazers, I've already mentioned. However, then came a raft of announcements. So we have Sumi Sakai, who will be on that show, Ram Kai Chow, who, of course, Stardom fans will remember from the Triangle Derby last year and her work with Rebel and Enemy. Saki, who I believe is one of the champions, and I'm really, really, really sorry to any Spark Joshi fans. I cannot remember the champion that she is. I know it's the secondary one. But it was then announced that Mayu Iwatani was going to be on this show, which was huge anyway. But then, on top of that, Mina Shirakawa was then announced, then Starlight Kid, and then Azumi. So we've got 4 Stardom talents now on that show at the Monster Factory in Philadelphia, which is incredible. Really, really cool. Just as we were going to record, Spark decided to outdo themselves, which is quite impressive when you consider who I've just said, by announcing Aja freaking Kong on this show. Now, when you consider that Spark have run, I think, 3 shows to date, and they are able to bring in Mayu, they're able to bring in Aja Kong, that's pretty bloody impressive, Matt.
Yeah, I knew they were running the show maybe about 6-7 weeks ago. And I would, obviously I support as much wrestling as I can, especially the Joshi scene. And I was like, this would be a fun show to go to. However, it's 2:00 on WrestleMania Sunday. We have a lot of people that are meeting us at the hotel WrestleMania Sunday. I'm like, I'm not going to chance it. I'm a time fanatic, as you know. I don't want to be late for anything. I don't want anybody to be late. I want everybody to have a good time. And if people don't have a good time, I feel like I'm going to be the blame for it. So I want to have enough time to meet at the hotel, get to the Lincoln, financial center, or the Link Field where they're having WrestleMania, have a few beers, tailgate, and have a good time. So I'm like, it's going to be too much of a time crunch. Then Friday night around 9:00 my time, which would make it 2:00 your time, I noticed that Mayu's on the show. And I thought about it for about 8 seconds. I'm like, I'm already going to buy the ticket. I'll tell Rob in the morning and we'll figure it out. I was like, I'll buy the ticket. And when I went to go buy the ticket, this is made mention before how you just talked about how front row for the Stardom show is $300. Front row VIP for this show is $175. And I was like, I hope they do well. And they sold out front row probably about 5 hours after they announced that Mina was going to be there. Point I'm trying to make, folks, is when we bought our tickets for the Stardom show, I believe it was in January, literally bought it as we were reviewing a show, that a lot of people were complaining that $300 for front row for Stardom, they're not going to sell many of those tickets. They sold out 3 sections in a matter of hours. There is a demand for this type of wrestling in the States. Obviously, Stardom is the biggest name in all of Joshi. Now you have Spark. Again, I think you're right, partner. I think they've run 2 shows. One in New Jersey, one in Florida. I was at the show in New Jersey back in the summer. It was a phenomenal show, well worth my ticket price. Their meet and greets were very, very well done. It was very well organized. First class promotion. Really, really is. So the fact that I was like, wow, they're selling $175 for front row VIP. And with the fact that they sold out front row and these tickets are selling fast, and more than likely this show is going to sell out, really tells you just the demand for Joshi style wrestling in the States. So, yeah, really interesting. And then I believe I woke up and I was getting ready to go to the gym, and you had sent me a tweet saying, Matt, I think we need to go to the show. And I texted you, I was like, hey, buddy, I just want to let you know, not only are we going to the show, but I already got our tickets. And I talked to the fine people that run Spark Joshi Wrestling. There's a meet and greet after the show. You're like, so everything's all said and done. We're like, oh, great, we're meeting Mayu. Well, now it looks like we're meeting Mayu, Azumi, Starlight Kid, Mina Shirakawa, and one Aja Kong. Literally the point where it's like, I'm going to have to make some phone calls these next few weeks and tell the fine folks that we're supposed to meet at the hotel room. Yeah, we'll probably just meet you in the parking lot, because I think you basically took the words out of my mouth when you said, I don't even care for late for WrestleMania. And I'm like, I'm exact same. No disrespect to the biggest show of the year, as long as we don't miss Io and Bailey, which I think that's going to be on night 1 on that Saturday, fingers crossed. Yeah, I don't care if we're late for WrestleMania either, because this is literally once in a lifetime opportunity. Again, my man, we talk a lot, texting back and forth how this is literally like the perfect stars aligning for everything coming in. We're WrestleMania in Philadelphia. You're coming over. The fact that The Rock, who hasn't had a proper match since WrestleMania 29, 11 years ago, he's on the show. The fact that Cody hopefully will finish the story, that is going to be happening. And the fact that we have a Stardom proper show at a sold-out ECW arena, and then we're going to have this the day of WrestleMania with 4 of the best women's, not the 4 of the best women's wrestlers, 4 of the best wrestlers on the planet. And then you're throwing in Aja Kong. Ramka Chow is great. Sumi Sakai is an absolute sweetheart. I've been on so many Chikara shows with her back in the early 2000s. Always nice seeing Sumi. And then obviously Saki is a huge favorite of mine. And then after all that, we'll do the meet and greet. And then when we're done with that, we get to go to Wrestle Freaking Mania. But I tell you what, it's like we're living a fever dream, aren't we, my man?
It does feel like every single day there is other things happening. In regards to Spark, I have nothing but huge admiration for what they're doing. I'm incredibly jealous of what they're doing, if truth be told. But to have this sort of promotion on American soil is really, really quite cool. Just to go back on what I said, Saki is currently the Spark Joshi Atlantic champion. Ram Kaichao is the Joshi Pacific champion, and Billy Starks is the Spark Joshi World champion, having dethroned Miyu Yamashita. Now, on top of that, they have already run 4 shows. So they had Joshi Ignite East and West. The East show was in New Jersey, which is the one that you attended, my friend. The West one was in California. They then did Rising Heat West and Rising Heat East. Pardon me, one in California and the one in Orlando. So really, really cool thing. I'm really excited by it. They did announce, of course, the formation of the Spark Joshi Dojo not too long ago, and that's going to be headed up by Sumi Sakai. But they've also announced that prior to this show, the Trailblaze show, they are going to be hosting the Spark Joshi Wrestling tryouts. And these are going to be judged by, some fairly illustrious names, Ram Kaichao and Saki, who are, of course, 2 champions in Spark, but then Mayu Iwatani and Sumi Sakai are also going to be judging as well, and the winner will have a chance to be a part of one of the matches at Trailblaze. So really, really cool opportunity. All of the details is on their site. It will be streamed, I believe, the Spark Wrestling show. So if you can't get to Philadelphia to watch this show, it will be streamed. And that is the same with the Stardom Philadelphia show as well. That has been confirmed that will be streamed. So that I imagine more information on that will be released at the same time as the rest of the roster announcements, which I am hoping we will get in the next couple of days. I imagine after the first couple of rounds of the Cinderella, we'll get that. On top of that, a Joshi legend has been inducted, or will be inducted, into the WWE Hall of Fame. Bull Nakano is the second induction of this year's Hall of Fame class, joining Paul Heyman, who was announced as the first member of the Hall of Fame. But Bull Nakano, incredible persona, was one of the most eye-catching people in 1994 WWE, was absolutely brutal, had some fantastic matches with Alundra Blaze. Matt, very, very, very much deserved, and in my opinion, pretty overdue.
Yeah, not only just deserved, but earned as well. Obviously you have Paul Heyman, who might be the headliner. I mean, like basically the godfather of ECW, one of the smartest minds in the history of pro wrestling. Probably headlining the Hall of Fame. And the fact that we're getting Joshi legend Bull Nakano, it just, like I said, it seems like the Joshi scene is going to be taking over the city of brotherly love, starting on 4/4 all the way up until that Sunday on the 7th. So that's great. Unfortunately, my friend, we will not be in attendance for the Hall of Fame, which I believe is Friday night, because we will be at Ring of Honor. So that should be a super fun time. I don't know anything that's on the card, but it's heavily rumored that Mina Shirakawa and Azumi are going to be on that card, because it just seems like me and you just can't get enough Mina and Azumi in our lives in Philadelphia. So we'll probably be watching that we'll probably be watching that probably on my iPad Saturday as we're tailgating from NXT. So we're getting in a lot of really cool stuff, my man. And again, we are about a month away, less than a month away, because you're flying in on that Wednesday, and after recording, you're flying in about a month. So, man, I'm super excited. It literally is just right around the corner. So exciting times, my friend.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. We I don't think there is going to be anywhere near enough time to get that Hall of Fame in as well, Matt, if I'm perfectly honest. I do need sleep. And I'm afraid I simply just will not cope. I will just curl up in the field position and go to sleep. The Cinderella tournament obviously starts on the 9th of January. 9th of March, sorry, which is...
They're planning ahead, folks.
Absolutely.
They're
the
doing
Cinderella
a
tournament 2027 will start it. No. So the Cinderella tournament is obviously starting in 3 days' time as we record the 9th of March, which is this coming Saturday. It has been announced that card will be a pay-per-view. What has also been announced is that the show immediately following on the 10th at Korakuen Hall, which, as we mentioned last week, will be main evented by Julia and Stephanie Vaca for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, that will be on pay-per-view as well. So details of that will probably have come out by the time this podcast comes out, because obviously the pay-per-view is in a couple of days. I have no issue, Matt, with these 2 days being pay-per-views, especially if these are the only 2 pay-per-views for March before we go into the Philly show in April.
Not only that, but it seems like when they do these Korakuen pay-per-views, they're like that night, whether it's Friday night or Saturday night. So it seems, and I could be wrong, I think the opening night for the Cinderella is going to take place, I think, like 2:30, 3 o'clock my time. And then the night 2 with the Korakuen show, I think, is like 9:30. So now I'm wrestling. I'm wrestling on this Saturday. The promoter is a friend of mine. So I think when we get off this podcast, I may say, hey, my man, you think you can put me on early, for all the discounts I give you on certain things? Maybe you can put me on a little early so I can go home and cover a show for the podcast. So Saturday, my only technical day off work will literally be like, get up crazy early, watch the night 1 of the Stardom show, go to the gym, rest a little bit, go wrestle, come home, and then watch the Korakuen show. And to be honest with you, Rob, it's a hell of a day to spend my day off. But I have no problem with this being 2 pay-per-views. I don't know if they're going to offer it at a discounted rate or maybe like a buy one, get one discount. I'm not sure. I think that would be a good way to go about it. But if not, I have no problem paying full price for what will be 2 fantastic shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. And the card that they've announced is very, very tasty. Obviously, we have got that all-star tag match with a ridiculous amount of star power in. We've got the first round, which we're going to be talking about as well. And obviously, we have got perhaps what is the main event in many people's eyes, the return of the murder pixie herself, Natsupoi. Now, Matt, we did talk about the Stardom in Philly show and how it was pretty much sold out. In fact, for all intents and purposes, it is a sellout. Do you know what hasn't sold out and will not sell out? It's only the Stardom cast live in Philadelphia. Philly Mania, baby, immediately following the Stardom show in the 2300 arena. Me and Matt will be at Jack's Steaks Tap Room, presented to you by Funk Brewing and Jack's, 242 Wharton Street, Philadelphia. 7 p.m. We are going to start a live podcast reviewing the show we've just seen. It's a 5-minute walk from the ECW arena, and we would love to see and chat to as many of you as we possibly can, and it is completely free entry. We just want to see you all there, all your happy, smiling, Stardom watching faces, and most importantly, we want to see you guzzling gallons of Stardom cast beer, just because it's going to be incredibly tasty, Matt.
Yeah, obviously my friends over at Funk Brewing have done a fantastic job getting us just not only a great venue, but a venue really, really close to the 2300/ECW arena. So I'm super excited for it. we are planning to start around 7 o'clock independent wrestling time. And what I mean by that, it could start 6:30, it could start at 7:30, because we don't know how long the Stardom show is going to be. We don't know if there's a meet and greet afterwards. We don't want anybody to rush, or if you want to meet one of your favorite wrestlers, if you want to get chopped by Saya Iida, we'd rather you do that and then come and hang out with us. So it's going to be a loose time, whether it's 7 o'clock. Now, I've been talking to the fine folks that run Jack's Steaks, the tap room there, because we're trying to get a gauge on how long we have. It may be something where they say go as long as you need to, or you have 2 or 3 hours. Because what the general format of the show is going to be is, we'll go in there, we'll tell a couple jokes, we'll have a good time, and then we're going to review the show we just watched at the 2300 Arena. And then if there is ample time, we would like to do not only a live Q&A where you can ask questions, but also, again, if we do have ample time, myself and or Rob, probably Rob, because he's very good with technology, we'll put up Q&A that you can ask. We'll put up, like, if you want to, like, a form for Q&A for the fine listeners of this podcast that can't make the Stardom Cast live show. So again, if they can give us 2.5, 3 hours, that's what we're going to do. We'll do the live Q&A after we review the show, and then you can submit your questions to both myself, Rob, and or Sean, our editor-in-chief, because he will be there. He will be doing all the technical stuff, running sound, and again, I believe he's going to be recording the podcast where we can either live stream it or release it at a later date. We're just trying to fill out the logistics. So Rob did mention that he doesn't think this thing's going to sell out. I like proving people wrong, especially Rob Goodwin. Folks, let's sell this baby out. I know there's been a lot of people that have gotten back to me, and they have said that they are attending the live Stardom Cast show. Let's fill this bar up. Let's make this the place to be. Joshi is going to be running Philly Mania. Why not have the best Joshi podcast with the best looking members of running Joshi, myself, Rob, and Sean. Sean's a very good looking man as well. Let's fill this bar up and let's have a dandy of a time.
I love the fact that you are a time fanatic and there is all these unknown variables. This must be absolutely killing you.
Yes and no, because I'm very good at kind of winging things off the top of my head. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll be on a show and my match will be later, like on the second half after intermission, and they may say this show's going too long. You're supposed to have 12 minutes. Can you cut it down to 8? And then 2 minutes in the match, the referee's like, hey, they want you to cut it down to 6. Or if I'm in the match and they're like, hey, they want instead of going 10 to 12 minutes, they want you to go to 15 or 16. So I'm very good. I am a time fanatic, as you know, but I'm very good at kind of, if I have to add things or take away things, I'm kind of really good kind of thinking on my feet. So once we get the okay, once we get the time from the fine folks that own Jack's Bar and Grill, then I'll have an idea of what we can do for the Q&A. But yeah, again, the Stardom show is starting at 3 o'clock. If this thing runs 3 hours, which most Stardom shows do, that takes us to 6, gives everybody an hour. However, Rob, as you know, some of these Stardom house shows maybe go an hour and a half to 2 hours. Some of these pay-per-view goes 4 hours. So again, 7 o'clock time, we put it on the flyer just as kind of a rough estimate of when to start. That's why I said independent wrestling time. I'm sure 99% of the people that are attending the Stardom show and going to attend the Stardom Cast live podcast, they have been an independent show and they know none of these things start on time, but we promise you it'll be well worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just looking forward to seeing as many of you as is humanly possible.
And we want a group photo too, folks. Even if I know there's been a handful of you that listen to the Stardom Cast and support the show that are going to DDT. You already bought your tickets. I understand. Let's try to meet up and get like a giant group photo somewhere by the bar in the 2300 Arena, because that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Please don't be scared of coming to say hello, because Matt will talk to you and I will shrink back in a ball of social anxiety, because that's what I do. But anyway, let's move on. I'm going to put in just a subtle, very, very subtle plug at the end of this news cycle, because my latest book, Chasing the Dream, 50 of Stardom's Greatest Matches, the book will be officially out on the 16th of March. It is officially completed. It's done. It's just currently being proofread and over 3/4 of the way through the proofreading process. So that will be available on Amazon on the 16th of March. So very excited to have that out. Forward by Post Wrestling's Karen Peterson, which I'm buzzing to have. Really, really beautiful words in that forward, and obviously illustrated by the phenomenally talented and just a great person in Matt Charlton, obviously brother of New Japan commentator Chris, who goes under Shining Wizard Designs. Honestly, such a great guy. The books come out so much better than I could have anticipated. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to sending that off into the world to mixed to average reviews.
Now, folks, Rob said he's going to give a subtle plug. You don't have to worry about that, me, my man. I am a salesman by trade. I absolutely love Stardom. I love you as a friend, as a brother, as a podcaster, and I'm not saying this because you're a friend of mine. You are extremely talented when it comes to writing. The fact that you made the Monday Night Wars in 1995 somewhat readable just goes to tell you how great of a writer that you are. And obviously, this has my full support. I know I talked to Karen a little bit via email, just because she gave me her Cinderella picks, and she's absolutely so delighted that she was able to do the forward. And obviously, Karen Peterson is just one of the nicest people that is currently walking God's green earth, as Harley Race would say. So super excited to read what she wrote. And I mentioned this maybe about a month or so ago. Rob did send me a handful of pages, I think back around the holidays. And I think I read 2 or 3 pages, and I was like, Rob, I'm not reading any more of this because I want to make sure you get every earned dollar, every earned penny from me. So once this comes out, obviously I'll be buying multiple copies because that's just what I do. And the fact that this is coming out on 3/16, and you said you did not do that on purpose.
I did not.
Folks, 3/16. So folks, what you want to do is you want to open up a can of beer, and then you want to go on Amazon and order yourself your copy of this book because it is going to be absolutely fantastic. So unfortunately, Rob, I will be ordering this book on 3/16. I will not be opening up a beer because I actually gave up alcohol for Lent, even to the point where I won't be touching a single drop of alcohol other than church wine until you come in to my home. My home. There is some Stardom Cast beer from the first batch that is sitting in the fridge, so I will not be drinking any alcohol until you arrive safely at my place in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. But unfortunately, like I said, I won't be cracking beer on 3/16, but I'll be cracking open Amazon.com to get your book. And then when your book comes, I'll be cracking that baby open to read it and I'll give a full review on this podcast, my friend. And I'm sure it's going to be great. You have nothing to worry about.
Thank you very much. So we've gone through the news. Let's go through the one show we have actually got to review today. Obviously, Stardom did back-to-back shows on the 2nd and 3rd of March, but the 3rd hasn't gone up on Stardom World as of yet, so we will just be looking at the 2nd, which is Stardom in Kanazawa on 2024 at the Kanazawa Ryutsu Kaikan in Ishikawa, in front of another full house of 367 people, which makes it back-to-back full house shows as reported by Stardom, and makes the last 3 of 4 shows full houses. Really good numbers for Stardom. The results are as follows then. Singles match, Saki Kashima defeated Rani Yagami with the Kish Kasai in 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Tag team match, the Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani and Miyu Amasaki defeated the Cosmic Angels team of Yuna Mizumori and Sayaka Kurora, with Miyu pinning Sayaka with the Tenzai in 10 minutes and 38 seconds. In an 8-woman tag match, the Uedatai team of Momo Watanabe, Natsukatora, Starlight Kid, and Ruaka defeated the Stars team of Hazuki, Hanan, Saya Iida, and Koguma, with Momo pinning Hanan with the Hito Danashi driver in 13 minutes and 43 seconds. Tag team match followed that then. Queen's Quest team of Utami Hayashishita and Azumi defeated the team of Mei Seira and Mei Sakurai, with Azumi pinning Mei Sakurai with the diving double foot stomp in 11 minutes and 42 seconds. We then had a 10-woman tag match, with Julia and Suzu Suzuki joining forces with the God's Eye team of Shiori Mirai and Amisori to defeat the EXV team of Maika, Mina Shirakawa, Waka Tsukiyama, Xena, and Hanako, with Suzu Suzuki pinning Waka with the tequila shot in 18 minutes and 6 seconds. And then in your main event, we had a tag team match. Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano and Shiori Ano defeated the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani and Yuzuki Saori Anou pinning Yuzuki with the Tom's Tundra in 9 minutes and 49 seconds. Matt, a short show, absolutely raced by, but there was some really, really interesting matchups, not just the main and the semi-main, but I was a really big fan of Utami and Azumi versus Mei Seira and Mei Sakurai, perhaps unsurprisingly.
Yeah, this show, I had a lot of people message me and say that this is a show that if they put this on Stardom World for $7-8, like they basically said, the general consensus I got on this show was this show alone was worth their $7-8 a month that they pay for Stardom World. Like it really seems like they've upped the intensity, they upped the quality of these quote unquote house shows. And again, you mentioned that they sold out 3 of the last 4 shows. It just goes to show that really Stardom is, they're doing a great job. And again, post Rossi, we weren't sure how this company was going to do. And so far, so good. So far, so good. It really seems like there's obviously those major announcements with them bringing in Chihiro Hashimoto and Sari and everything that's going on in a month's time over here at the States in Philadelphia. And the 3 shows we reviewed last week were fantastic. This show from start to finish was great. I'm excited that once they drop the show on the 3rd, which will probably be either later today or tomorrow, I'm sure that's going to be great. But again, there was only a handful of matches. I kind of just want to go through matches 1 and 2 really quick with Saki Kashima and Rana Yagami. Kind of figured that, and again, I like how Stardom is putting the rookies either in main events with the main event talent and tag matches, or they're starting them off in match 1 or 2 with kind of like the mid-card talent just to see how they're going to do in a singles match. And I thought for 5 minutes, I thought Rana Yagami was great, and Saki Kashima does a great job on that comedic, almost like afraid, former heel, now part of God's Eye, because she was really cowering over Rana, who's doing a great job mixing in the strikes and the submissions, especially the armbar, into her offense. And Saki does a great job of, there's like 1 or 2 times in this match that I thought that Rana was going to get the win. And that just goes to show how great Saki Kashima is almost playing like an underneath babyface. And I thought the finish was great because like the story of this match, and again, you're not getting much of a story in 5 minutes. The story of this match was just Rana just kicking the crap, like legit kicking Saki Kashima. And then she goes for the 1 head kick, Saki ducks, and then Kishi Kasai, thanks for coming. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a great story. Match number 2 with Miyu Amasaki and Sai Kamatani, obviously Queen's Quest, they're great, versus Yuna Mizumori and Sayaka Kurora. Rob, did you notice Sayaka Kurora? She pretty much nailed the Cosmic Angels dance. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, well, I know what you're going to say. The fact that she's not technically officially in Cosmic Angels. She's like an understudy, kind of like how Yuna was. And the fact that Yuna comes out first and then gives her the entire entrance to do the Cosmic Angels dance. As soon as she finished, I know what Rob's going to say. So go ahead, partner, say it.
She nailed that so much quicker than Waka Tsukiyama, who still, bless her, cannot do that dance. And the fact that she's in a stable with Mina, whose entrance is all dancing and all very enthusiastic dance, it still makes me laugh when they tag together.
Yeah, really good stuff. But let's get into this match number 3, because this was my favorite match of the show. You have an 8-person tag, Stars versus Oedo Tai. Not only that, Rob, but if you take a step back and look at this, it's broken down into the 2 tag teams. You do have the former champions, 2-time champions in FWC, teaming with obviously their stable mates in current New Blood champions in Wingori and Han and Saya Iida to take on the former champions in Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid against obviously the team that was almost stole the show and the Goddess of Stardom Tag League in 2022 in BMI 2000 with Nasuka Tora and Ruaka. And they did a great job of not only highlighting each individual, but highlighting each tag team. Now, Rob, I'm going to throw this to you. I don't know if I'm wrong. And again, all 8 wrestlers look great. The tag teams were great. I thought this match was terrific. I gave it 4 stars, which again, anytime that one of these quote unquote house shows breaks 4 stars, it's kind of almost like a must see. I love Momo Watanabe. I love me some Starlight Kid. I love what they're doing with Tora. Ruwaka's improving. I love that Kagama's back. You know me. I love me some Hanan. And of course, I love me some Hazuki. To me, and I want to know if you agree with me on this one, buddy, the MVP of this match was one Saya Iida.
It seems more and more over the last couple of weeks that Stardom are slowly but surely putting more of a spotlight on Saya Iida. And I don't know whether that is just to build up your hope ahead of the Cinderella tournament, where obviously she takes on Saki Kashima in the first round, or whether, you know, they're starting to really sit up and take notice of A, just how much progress she's made, or B, how much people are behind her. And I'm not just talking about Western fans on Twitter. I'm talking about, you know, live crowds in attendance. She gets huge reactions whenever she's wrestling. And, you know, the fact that she is able to tell really good stories, and the fact that she isn't getting outshined now in the Stars faction. There's times where, you know, Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Koguma, Hanan even were outshining Saya Iida, and to be honest, Saya Iida was used as little more than, you know, a pin eater, to the point where we, you know, religiously made jokes about it. But it does feel like something different is happening with Saya Iida in the best possible way. She's receiving more of a focus in matches. She's having more time in the ring in matches. She doesn't seem to be eating as many pinfalls as well, which is really good. She seems to be more on an even footing with the likes of Hanan and Koguma. And hopefully we will see that continue, because Saya Iida is one of the most improved wrestlers in Stardom. And it's good to see the fact that she is able to go out there, perform at a really high standard, and get even more people on the Saya Iida train that we've been on since the very beginning.
Yeah, there was this really great exchange where she's chopping Tora, and Tora is kind of like fighting through it and kind of like getting in her face. And then Saida's like, "You want me to chop you harder? No problem." And then they like get into this really crazy fast-paced like tackle trade-off where like Tora is a little bit taller. I don't know if she's stronger. Saya is obviously more explosive. You can tell that she definitely works on, you know, she definitely does not skip leg day, my man. So they get into the chop exchange, the forearm exchange, and then they get into a shoulder tackle fest. And then Saya Iida just explodes out of nowhere on like the second or third tackle. And I think she almost caught Tora by surprise by, one, how fast she was, and two, how explosive that shoulder tackle was. You could just see on Tora's face was like, I was expecting something, but not that, which I thought was really cool. I do like how Momo and Starlight Kid, they had to work together to get the advantage on Hanan. If you're telling me that a member of Stars was going to lose, I thought it would have been Saya Iida, not Hanan. I thought going into this match, because I didn't read any spoilers, so I didn't know who was going to take the L. I figured it'd be Ruaka, because she'd be the least protected of the 8. But it was interesting to see that it was Hanan. But at the same time, it took Momo and Starlight Kid some double teamwork. And Hanan and Momo had a really great last like 2 to 3 minute stretch going into this. Obviously, Hanan is one of the favorites to win the Cinderella tournament or get far in the tournament. And I'm excited when we get to the main event of the show just to see how far you have her going, because she's got to go through a lot of tough competitors to make that Final Four, that final. But it was really, again, for me, who's somebody who loves Momo Watanabe, and I've been really digging her heel persona since the start of the 5-star last year. It really seems like they're heating Momo back up to maybe get a championship match against Micah. They're doing a great job telling that story where they kind of get into each other's face, where Mike is holding up the title. And it's a great job. I don't think Momo has eaten a pinfall at all this year. And these multi-person matches, it's usually her that gets the pinfall. So I like that closing stretch that we have on Hanan and Momo Watanabe. And that's a match that I would love to see, you know, giving a singles match somewhere down the line, given some time, because I thought it was really, really good stuff. Again, Hanan doesn't lose anything because she really ran wild on one of the greatest Wonder of Stardom champions in one Momo Watanabe. But the fact that I had to take Starlight Kid to kind of break Hanan down so Momo eventually can hit a huge head kick and then the inhumane driver for the 3 count. Again, this thing went almost 14 minutes. I thought this was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was a really, really, really good match. And just getting back to Saya Iida, she was on a PPP Tokyo show, which was the Chanyo to Produce show, Love and Muscle, where she took on and defeated Kaio Kobayashi in 15 minutes and 34 seconds inside Chikiba first ring. And I know Saya was very, very excited about this, because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know that she was very excited to be facing Kobayashi. And again, that sort of goes on to show that, you know, Saya Iida is, you know, a little bit of a crossover star. Let's put it out there. But yes, completely agree. I don't think Hanan loses anything. I do, you know, putting my cards on the table, I do believe that she is due a big run in this Cinderella tournament. I just feel like we are being primed for that. I don't think a loss to Momo Watanabe here, when you said like Starlight Kid did all the dirty work first, I don't feel like she loses a great deal in that. Completely agree. Any match where we get Azumi and Mei Seira facing off Matt Turner is always great fun. Even seeing Azumi taking the mick out of Mei Sakurai's pose.
Yeah, that was fun. And Utami and Mei Sakurai, they have some really, really good chemistry. They had that really short match in the 5-star back in 2022 where it only went maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but like they got a lot out of it. They seem to work really well together. And Utami, again, constant main eventer, former World of Stardom champion, former winner of the 5-star Grand Prix, really gave Mai Sakurai a lot in this match. I like how they build towards the Paradise Lock, where she tries to get it in early, and eventually she gets to it. Sakurai with those running boots, those running Yakuza kicks. I really like how she's added that in her arsenal. Just basically, again, we talk about her improvement all the time between her character work, the mic work, the Sakurai dollars, and of course the hat. And you add that presentation, the fact that she's ever improving in the ring. And then when she's in the ring, she's 9.5 times out of 10, she's in the ring with phenomenal talent, whether it's, she's teaming with Julia or Tekla, or, in this match, she's across the ring from Azumi and Utami Hayashishita. And again, we say it all the time on the show with the Queen's Quest teams. When it comes to straight up tag teams, you're not going to beat Aphrodite, Utami and Saya Kamatani, not only just in Stardom, but probably one of, if not the best tag teams going in current wrestling. But there's something with that Utami and Azumi team that just clicks. That's always fun to watch, and something super exciting. And again, depending on who ends up where, we know Azumi staying with Stardom. I see Saya Kamatani really being the ace of the company. I see her winning the red belt by the year's end. And if that's the case where these 3 main members of Queen's Quest stay, wouldn't it be the worst thing in the world if Saya Kamatani is wearing the red belt and then you give a run with the tag belts to Azumi and Utami Hayashishita? Considering the fact that Azumi, as decorated as she is, Rob, as great as she is, she's never won the Goddess tag belts. Momo AZ is one of my favorite tag teams ever in Stardom. They never won the Goddess belts, and it would be cool to see maybe Azumi and Utami maybe later this year or sometime in 2025 with the Goddess belts. Again, depending on who stays where. And even the team of Mai and Mei, again, they were great together. Everything really worked well. They had great tag team chemistry. Again, I just can't put over enough how great this team of Utami and Azumi. That could be the name of the team. I'm combining Utami and Azumi's name. I thought that this match was. I like the A person just a little bit more. I had this one at 4 stars as well, and I love the tandem teamwork that it took to defeat Sakurai. You kind of figured she's the one eating the fall, but in fact, it took a version of the torture rack bomb, followed up by that insane double stop from the high-speed bomb girl to put Sakurai away in around 12 minutes. Again, just a great 2 back-to-back matches, my friend, on this, what was really a phenomenal card.
You know why Mei Sakurai's not on this Philadelphia card, don't you?
Because they can't get her hat through customs?
There you go.
Is that really what you were going with?
Yeah, genuinely. It was going to be something about Carry On. This semi-main then, the 10-woman tag. I was a huge fan of this, but genuinely the person that caught my eye was Xena. I thought Xena gave a fantastic account of herself in the very small little bits we got, especially with Mirai. Now, I know that we could eventually get that in the Cinderella tournament. I don't think we will, but I would be very, very happy to see a Xena and Mirai singles match.
They've been calling each other out on these backstage promos and I believe on social media. That was the main crux of this match. Again, look at all the talent you have in this match. You have Mina Shirakawa, former white belt champion. Maika, holding the most prized possession in all of wrestling. And on the other side, you have Mirai, 2-time winner of the Cinderella tournament, 3 former winners of the 5-star Grand Prix. And Ami Sourei is somebody that I have big things. I think everybody has big things to peg for in the world of professional wrestling in the next 10 to 12 months. And the fact that it was Xena that was probably, the MVP of this match. And I think that it was designed that way because they had her in the ring quite a bit, especially those chops and forearms and lariats back and forth with Mirai. Yeah, considering the fact that neither of these wrestlers have a title, usually when we have these multi-person matches and they focus on kind of one exchange, it's either going to be in something like a tournament or like for a championship. but you don't always need a belt. It's literally just going to be like, look, hey, I'm hitting you hard. You're hitting me hard. We need all these other wrestlers to kind of interfere. Put this on a Korakuen. Put this on a pay-per-view. Put this on a random show at KBS Hall or wherever and let it go 10, 12, 13 minutes. But yeah, partner, I completely agree with you. Xena was the MVP of this match. That is just absolutely loaded with main event talent, and the fact that her exchanges with Mirai were great. And what a dream team this was. You have Sherry, Amisori, and Mirai representing God's Eye. And then you're taking Suzu Suzuki and Julia, the last two winners of the 5-star Grand Prix. It's like, boy, what an all-star duo that is. And I don't know if you noticed, obviously Suzu Suzuki is very close with Julia. Really seems like kayfabe, they buried their hatchet. Julia has a new hairdo, and Suzu Suzuki looked like she got a little haircut too, partner.
I didn't notice actually, but then again, I am pretty useless with stuff like that.
Again, my sister-in-law is a hairdresser, so it's just, I don't know, these things maybe come through me through osmosis. But of course, Rob, you know who's eating the pinfall on this one. Poor Waka with the tequila shot. You have, all these 10 great wrestlers. The fact that they were able to get 18 minutes, everything here was excellent, just really, really good stuff. I liked how they started the match out with Sherry and Micah, because they both are really great with the grappling. Obviously, Sherry, a former MMA fighter, former UFC fighter, former Queen of Pancrase, and Micah, who's a judoka, very high-level judoka. I always like it when they have their matches, whether it's singles matches or whether it's in the tag matches, that they always start and they do some high-level grappling, because you folks don't understand how much energy that takes to do any of that grappling. It really takes a lot out of you. It may not be like the Will Ospreay, like 630 splashes, the fanciest stuff, but it's something that I truly appreciate. So, yeah, man, that was really good. But, Rob, without any further ado, do you want to talk about the main event and the return of a loved segment?
What is your beloved segment, man?
Now, we're going to go to the main event, which is obviously Mayu Iwatani and Yuzuki taking on the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano and Sayoriano, which will lead us into the return of the segment of Amber versus Tam.
I remembered as you said it.
I texted this morning
You
just
did.
to kind of see if you were going to stop on me, but no problem. Now, for those who don't know, my wonderful, wonderful, loving, caring wife, who has asked me repeatedly what Rob needs before he comes to Philadelphia, so you're all taken care of for the night that you stay over my house. She does not care for one Tam Nakano, and I lean into it so much. There's just comedy stuff. I do get some responses back and forth, but mostly this Amber versus Tam segment I do to pop Rob. So, Rob, this is how I'm going to pop you. So I'm watching this match in my new podcast room, which, again, my wife completely redid everything for me because she's the best. And she's in the room because she's adding more stuff to it. And I'm watching this on my computer. And she has her back turned. She has no idea what's going on. She just knows I'm watching this match. And the entrance has happened. Soriano comes out, and her theme plays for like 15 or 20 seconds. And then Twilight Dream starts. And I turn my computer up to full blast. And I can already see my wife is none too happy. I said, hon, Tam's wrestling. Do you want to take a 10-minute break, or want me to take the computer and move it so you can see it? She's absolutely not. She's like, please turn that down. That music just makes my ears bleed. I was like, and then I'm leaning. I'm, oh my God, look how great she looks with the robe and the smile, and she's back, and she's the best, and the purple hair. And again, she's not seeing any of this. And she goes, did Tam do her thing where she gets on the ropes and she does the thing where she points at the camera and blows a kiss? And I go, you mean the thing that she does when she points at me and blows the kiss to me? I go, not. I go, no, not yet. She goes, oh, I hope she falls and busts her head open. I go, well, then she would look like I hope then she would look like a bloody angel, like in the Bible. She goes, anywho.
I love the fact that you just do this to your poor wife, your poor loving wife.
The best.
But yeah, new hairstyles for both Tam and Sayoriano. I thought they both looked fantastic, but we need to talk about this Mayu Iwatani and Tam Nakano exchange. I mean, for a start, this match goes less than 10 minutes, which is wild for a main event. But it was such a fast-paced main event and centered almost solely around Mayu and Tam rekindling that passionate hatred that they had or still harbor for each other, because, of course, they are tasked with teaming with each other on Saturday at the Cinderella final in that three-way tag match. So it was all about their just outpouring of emotion. There's one moment where it's gift all over Twitter at the moment where Tam floors Mayu with a forearm and Mayu just sits up. The very incarnation of zombie Mayu, and the forearm she delivers to Tam just sounds brutal. And honestly, I want a singles match between these two women. I want them to do nothing but punch and kick each other, because genuinely, I think that would still be extremely compelling viewing, because these two would be able to do it. The rest of the match is really good as well. Saori and Yuzuki did incredibly well. Yuzuki, again, still find it baffling she's so soon into her career. But for me, man, this was all about Tam and Mayu and how much I love them as a pairing.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, not only Yuzuki, but Sayaka Kurora and Rani Yugami, phenomenal. I mean, these three rookies they've only been wrestling a handful of months. It looks like they've been wrestling for a handful of years. So, really good stuff. Again, the future of Stardom is really, really bright. But yeah, the crux of this match, the main story of this match was not only Tam versus Mayu in the ring, but after Saori Anou got the win with a Tom's Tundra, that they had a nice little promo. Tom's Tundra, where they had a nice little promo where Tam makes mention that her and Mayu are going to be teaming together. She goes to give Mayu the microphone, then takes it away. She goes back on the microphone. Then as Mayu is leaving, she goes, "Mayu, don't you have anything to say?" And Mayu goes, "I did, but you took the microphone away from me." And then it was just like, to quote you, "Bugger off." And then just Mayu was kind of pissed. It was like, wait a minute, I'm the icon of Stardom. I'm in the main event here. You go to give me the microphone so we can plug the fact that we're teaming up in the Yokohama Budokan, maybe some last minute selling to sell some tickets and some pay-per-views. And then you take the microphone away from me. And then you're like, oh, by the way, aren't you going to say anything? Yeah, I was going to. You took the microphone away from me, you jerk. I wish my wife was there when she saw that or heard that, because she would have been like, yeah, Tam's, a jerk. Like I've been telling you. So, by the way, I don't think Tam's a jerk. She's an angel. A cosmic angel. See what I did there?
Honestly, flawless, my friend. I love this pairing. I love the fact that we're rekindling that hatred they have for each other, and hopefully this leads somewhere and we get a little bit more from them moving forward as well, because that's a singles program that I do really, really look forward to revisiting. Overall, Matt, this, like I said before, this show, relatively short, but still really, really entertaining.
Yeah, great show. A short show was easy, entertaining, and everything was, we literally went through every match. It's always, Stardom's great. You should try to watch as much as possible. But sometimes if you're pressed for time, you might be able to skip this or that. You should really watch this whole entire show because, again, nothing overstayed its welcome. Even the matches that went a little bit longer, they went a little bit longer for obvious reasons. But yeah, really, really good stuff from match one all the way up into the main event, and then even the post-match promo with Tam basically almost cracking Saori Anou. She's supposed to be the indomitable girlfriend and is supposed to, basically be the serious one, and then Tam kind of almost getting her to break character a little bit was, I thought that was a good way to end what was another phenomenal show from Stardom.
So, obviously, that takes us into Cinderella tournament weekend. Again, there was a show on the 3rd, but it wasn't uploaded to Stardom World yet. What we will do is we'll make sure to tag that onto our review next week. But just speaking of that Yokohama Budokan show, it is on March the 9th, as I've already mentioned, and it's selling pretty well. We've still got quite a few areas that aren't sold out. There's a couple with few tickets remaining. There's there's 3 sections which are sold out: front row VIP, VIP seats, and third floor stand front row seats are all sold out. Obviously, we'll check a little bit closer to the day just to see how those tickets are ticking along. In terms of this card, though, just a reminder of the card itself. We have got an 8-way match. It's Mei Sakurai versus Ami Sourei versus Mei Seira versus Suzu Suzuki versus Mirai versus Azumi versus Hazuki versus Waka Tsukiyama. It's 1 fall. And it's going to be absolute bloody carnage by the sounds of it. We've then got a special 3-way tag match with Aphrodite taking on the EXV team of Maika and Mina Shirakawa. And then, as we mentioned before, the misfit team of Maya Iwatani and Tam Nakano. Rina will defend her future of Stardom Championship against Miran from Diana. We've got a 6-woman tag, a prelude to the New Japan Strong Women's Championship match with Julia Siori and the returning Konami teaming to face Stephanie Vaca, Fukigen Death, and Momo Watanabe. And then in your final non-tournament match, we have got the Natsupoi return match. Saori Ano and Natsupoi teaming together against Sari and Chihiro Hashimoto. First round matches from the Cinderella tournament then are Hanan and Hanako, Yuzuki versus Starlight Kid, Momokogo versus Xena, Kaguma versus Ruaka, Saya Iida versus Saki Kashima, Yuna Mizumori versus Lady C, Sayaka Kurora versus Nads Katora, Miyu Amasaki versus Rana Yagami. And then just to remind you, okay, that's a pay-per-view. And then the day after, should I say, on the 10th, we've got another pay-per-view, Korakuen Hall. At the moment, the only matches that are announced are the Cinderella matches. So just to remind you, we've got Mirai taking on the winner of Hanan and Hanako, Suzu Suzuki taking on the winner of Yuzuki and Starlight Kid, Meisera taking on the winner of Saya Iida and Saki Kashima, and Missouri taking on the winner of Yuna Mizumori and Lady C. We've got Aya Sakura returning from injury. She's been out since July. And, of course, the main event, the Strong Women's Championship match. Julia, the champion, defending against CMLL's Stephanie Vaca. The rest of the card for the 10th will be announced following the result of the Yokohama Budokan show on Saturday. So that's the most up-to-date card we have for the show on the 10th. Before we dive headlong then, Matt, into our brackets, our own personal brackets, what do you think about these cards overall?
I think they're both pretty solid, both pretty stacked. You mentioned this night one of the Cinderella tournament is selling well, which is always really good to see, because you just don't know when Stardom runs these bigger venues how well they're going to sell. So really solid stuff. Even the tournament matches. Again, we're going to get into our official bracketology, which I'm so excited for, and to hear you have a darn near heart attack like you did last year. But all these other matches seem really, really good. And do you want to, before we get into our brackets, do we want to do some predictions for the non-tournament matches?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a significant amount of people who are yet to be on the card. I mean, there's no Mayu yet, there's no Tam yet, there's no Natsupoi yet. I would love to see maybe some fallout from that three-way tag and have a Mayu versus Tam singles match.
Or now Mike and Mina and Aphrodite, they're not on that card on the 10th either.
No, they're not.
Here's what I'm going to give my prediction. I'm going to say Mike and Mina win that multi-person tag match. I think that's going to be the main event. As much I know you really think, and a lot of people think, that Natsupoi return match is going to be the main event. I just think, and you can go either way. There's no wrong answer. I just think with the talent in that 3-person tag match, I think that's going to go in the main event. And you very easily can have Mike and Mina win that match and then go on to Korakuen the very next night and challenge Aphrodite for the tag titles. And I know that they kind of lined up the Crazy Star match, that match we were supposed to get back in January sometime, as the next challenger. But you can do that, to sell more pay-per-views, to sell more tickets. So, yeah, I mean, guess that's a good possibility. Maybe we have a Mayu versus Tam match at that Korakuen. You can kind of throw it there. Maybe that goes to the time limit draw, and then maybe you go to the Yokohama Buntai show at the end of April and do a no time limit match with Tam and Mayu for the IWGP Women's Championship. There's a lot they can do. They really have a lot of lanes open for a lot of really good stories they can tell. So, long way about it, my man. I think that is going to be the main event, and I think the EXV team wins that multi-person tag match.
Something we did mention, it was because it was on the show after the second. It was the show from the third was that we are pretty much guaranteed. In fact, Crazy Star cashed in, so to speak, their pending opportunity at the Goddess of Stardom Championships, which is something that we were supposed to get, but unfortunately due to injury, I believe. Was it Suzu getting COVID?
I don't think it was COVID. I think it might have been like a COVID precaution because I think she just missed 2 shows and was back the next week. So I think she might have just had the flu. Again, I could be wrong because I think she was only out for like 7-8 days, but I think she was sick and they just sent her home, or she stayed home.
So we were supposed to get that championship match. It didn't happen. We are getting that at another point. Obviously not on this card because Suzu Suzuki is already, and Mei Seira are already in tournament matches. So that is something that we will keep an eye on because that looks like Aphrodite's next challenge for their belts. What other matches do you think we could throw on here, Matt, then, the 10th?
You can give us an Aphrodite tag title match. I guess you can do Rina versus Hina. You can have Hina. I think me and you both, predictions. I think Rina's going to retain over Moran. I don't think that you're going to disagree on that one. And then you could have Hina come out and challenge her right there. Again, you're kind of shotgunning some championship matches, but at the same time, depending on how it's selling, it's not a bad idea to maybe kind of throw 1 or 2 big matches on almost like last minute. Like they can announce it right after, the 5-star, or not the 5-star, night 1 of this tournament. So, they're doing a great job kind of keeping some matches close to the vest. So this way we won't know, they're not telegraphing, who's going to win, who's going to lose on the first night of the Cinderella tournament. Regardless, I'm excited for both these nights of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, I feel like we've beat around the bush all too much. I feel like we need to delve headlong, chaotically into these brackets. What we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, is we'll put these brackets on Twitter as well, and you can sort of slag us off in the comments about how little we know about Stardom and tell us about how much Amber is going to absolutely wipe the floor with us. But without further ado, Matt, are you ready?
Dun, dun. Yes, I am ready, my man. I got my bracket. I got my wife's bracket. I already know what Karen Peterson's final 4 is. So once we get to the final 4 of our brackets, we'll give Karen what her predictions are. So, my man, I love this time of the year. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do this then. So we'll start from the left-hand side of the bracket as we look at it. So we'll start with Hanan versus Hanako. I feel like this isn't going to be a controversial one, and I imagine at least me and you have got the same one here.
Yeah, double elimination. All right, next match. No, I have Hanan, and so does my bride.
And so does your bride. Well, that makes 3 of us, because I've also got, unsurprisingly, Hanan, because I do feel like Hanan, as I said before, is due a big run in this tournament, especially because we sort of set up that with the confrontation with Soriano. And obviously there's no guarantees that Soriano will still be the champion at that point, but we seem to set that up that way. Again, I imagine this match is relatively simple to call. As good as Yuzuki is, I feel like there's only one way this is going, Matt, isn't there?
Yeah, I got Starlight Kid. My wife has Starlight Kid as well. It's going to be interesting to see how she gets the win over Yuzuki. Is she going to do one of those fancy roll-ups? Is she going to... It's going to be a great match. It really is going to be a great match, but it's going to be interesting to see how Starlight Kid puts away the all-star rookie. But I got Starlight Kid. Like I said, Amber's got Starlight Kid. I'm assuming that will make 3 of us.
Yeah, I'm looking for that one spoiler in this round, but I cannot see it being Starlight Kid. We talked about how much, if she's one of the ones that stays, how much Stardom value her, and I can't really see, irrelevant of how well Yuzuki does. I can't see her. I can't see it. I just can't see it. Plus, just think about that main event of Karak and Starlight Kid versus Suzu Suzuki. That's a very, very, very tasty matchup. Let's move on then to the next match. Equally relatively easy to guess, I would have thought. We've got EXV members clashing Oh, no, we haven't. Sorry, I'm misreading the bracket. Xena versus Momo Kogo, Matt. Obviously, we've seen lots of images of Momo Kogo doing lots of training ready for her comeback. Unfortunately, I just don't see there being any way of her overcoming Xena.
Rob, this is actually the hardest match for me to call. Obviously, Xena's been on a roll since her return back to Stardom, but they put a lot of emphasis on Momo Kogo on her promo at the Cinderella tournament press conference, and the fact that Stardom is really showing how well Momo Kogo is getting into shape for her return. Again, you just picked Xena. My wife is going to agree with you, but I am maybe betting with my heart, and I'm going to go with the member of Stars. You know, there's always some sort of upset in the first round or two, and I think this is going to be one of them. I am going to go with Momo Kogo.
Wow, really?
Yes.
I can potentially see it being a double elimination. I can't see it being... do you know what? It might be. I might be talking out of my arse because, to be fair, I have voted, as I've mentioned before, for Azumi multiple times to win, and she has constantly let me down. So as I fill in Amber's bracket, she went for Xena as well, didn't she? Hello, Fred.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to be fed? Sorry, Fred wants to join in. Maybe give his brackets. He also says that Xena is going to win. So moving on then, as I fill in mine. Because to be honest, I'm actually, as I always do, I am going into this blind and sort of doing it on the podcast because I feel like that way creates more tension and is far more unhealthy for me. So I feel like that's better podcast listening. Let's move on then to the last match on this side of the bracket in the first round, Koguma versus Ruaka. This one, I think, has the potential to have maybe a weird finish or maybe even a double elimination. However, Koguma has only just returned, so is it just going to be Koguma?
Yeah, I agree with you. So does Amber. At the same time, they could have Ruaka win because the winner of this is going up against the Buzzsaw and everybody's favorite, one of everybody's favorite, Hazuki. So they could have Ruaka win just to eat the L to Hazuki. But at the same time, I think Koguma versus Hazuki in the Cinderella tournament on, I believe that match, if it does happen, is on the 16th, I think would draw a few bucks as far as ticket goes. So it is a possibility Ruaka can be a bracket buster here, but myself and my bride both have the bear advancing to the next round.
Yeah, I've got the bear as well. I can't bring myself to have a bracket buster yet. I don't feel like I'm confident enough in my own abilities to actually predict that. So I am going Koguma versus Hazuki. Now, which way do you want to do this now, Matt? Do you want to just fill out the left-hand side of the bracket and then move to the right-hand side of the bracket? Or shall we do all of the first-round matches first?
No, let's do all the first-round matches first. So if you're looking at it the way that I'm looking at it, I believe the next one we're doing is Saki and Saya Iida.
It is indeed. So, without further ado, let's go to Saki Kashima versus Saya Iida. This is the one I'm not sure about, Matt.
Well, then let me go first because both me and my bride both pick one Saya Iida. And I understand this could be a tough one because Saki Kajima is the ultimate spoiler. She has the most devastating finish in all of wrestling. No, it's not the super kick. No, it's not the 450. No, it's not the Tiger Driver 91. It's the Kishi Kasai coming out of nowhere. So I see where you may be hesitant to pull the trigger on one Saya Iida, but both myself, me, and Amber are taking the Gorilla. I love this. Folks, if you were newer to the podcast, go back and listen to our one from last year. Because poor Rob, I think I texted him 20 minutes afterwards to see if I needed to call like an ambulance for him because it made for great podcasting material. But he was literally, I could hear him ripping his hair out mid-tournament bracket.
It was horrible. Absolutely horrible.
It was great.
Do I go Saya Iida? Do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go Saya Iida. They've put so much into her recently. And And much as I've said that, there is every possibility that it will just roll her up in 3 minutes, but that's beside the point. So let's move on to Yuna Mizumori versus Lady C. I could see this. See what I did there? I could Lady see this going either way, Matt.
Yeah, good one. This one, I'm just going to lay my cards out on the table. Neither me or my wife have any double elimination, no buys other than the ones they're already given. But if anyone's going to go to a time limit draw or double elimination, I think it would be this one. Yuna Mizumori, obviously we sing her praises on this show all the time. I think she's the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling of last year. Lady C's not too far behind. This one was a tough one, very much like Xena and Momo Kogo for me. This one was kind of flip a coin to see which one you get. But both myself, and I'm looking at Amber's back, we both have the Queen's Quest member seeing herself to the next round. See what I did there?
Look at that. Beautiful stuff. I must admit, I've done the exact same, but for a completely different reason. I just quite like the idea of the Reiwa Tokyo Towers going at each other. I think that could be quite cool. They're both quite similar wrestlers. We've seen them have very good tag team matches. I just want to see them chop each other into oblivion. I'm a simple man of simple pleasures, Matt, and that is all I want in my Lady C and Amisori match. So, unfortunately, that means we've all got Yuna Mizumori falling at the first hurdle, which is a shame because she's brilliant.
I'll tell you this, though, buddy, real quick. You want to see chopping. No matter who wins this match, Yuna's a big chopper as well, so you're going to get it either way.
That is a very good point. Very underrated Yuna Mizumori's chop. Now, Sayaka Kurora versus Natsuko Tora. I have a feeling that this is probably lock of the tournament.
Buddy, you say that, but keep in mind the over-the-top rope. Can Natsuko Tora pull a Mayu Iwatani and slip on a banana peel, and Sayaka Kurora gets the win? It's a possibility. But I think all three of us are going to be in agreement when we say the leader of Oedo Tai and one of my favorite wrestlers to watch and an absolute badass, and Natsuko Tora will win this match.
I mean, it would be a hell of a time for Sayaka Kurora to get her first victory in Stardom, because she is one of only 4 people to record no victories so far this year. 18 matches, 18 losses. Do I see it coming at the expense of the Oedo Tai leader? No, absolutely not. Were it against someone like a Ruaka potentially, then I could potentially see it happening. But no, I think Natsuko Tora is going to absolutely steamroller through poor Sayaka Kurora, but we are probably going to see an absolutely badass spear because her spear is incredibly underrated. Miyu Amasaki versus Rana Yagami. This is another one which I feel like is probably something of a lock, but I think will be a very, very good match, Matt.
Yeah, again, Miyu Amasaki, she had that shot at the Future of Stardom Championship, came ever so close. She's debuting a new robe. Rana Yagami, again, we mentioned these the rookies of Stardom, just absolutely crushing it. This is a matchup that I'm definitely looking forward to. One of the matches I'm looking forward to the most in the first round. I could see Rana getting a win here, but I just think they've kind of invested too much into Miyu to have her drop out in the first round to someone that's only been wrestling a handful of months. That is my reasoning to pick Miyu Amasaki. I see my wife has circled Miyu Amasaki. I don't know if that was her in-depth detail as well. I think it's just because she looked at the bracket and said, who are these 3 names? I don't know. I said, those are the new rookies. They're like, okay, they're not winning. So that's why I think that's why she picked Miyu. So we both have Miyu Amasaki, and I'm assuming you as well.
Yes, absolutely, Miyu Amasaki. And spoiler, I have Miyu Amasaki going quite deep in this tournament. I can see her being last year's Waka Tsukiyama, maybe even making it all the way through to the Final 4. But we'll see, because I'm sure once I actually get to that in my bracket, I will change my mind. This is where things get tasty, and this is where I imagine our tournament brackets will move apart. The first match that we have then in this second round for your bracket, Matt, and I believe all 3 of ours, is Mirai versus Hanan. What are you thinking here?
This is a tough one because when they announced not the brackets, when they announced the names, I think a lot of us had Mirai going to the Final Four just because to see if she can win 3 in a row and be the only wrestler in Stardom history to win 3 Cinderella tournaments that would sell tickets on that final night of the Cinderella tournament. I think Hanan is obviously earmarked for huge, huge things. They've been doing a great job building her up and almost teasing a match with her and Soriano for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. My wife went with Mirai just because she thinks Mirai is going to go deep in this tournament for the reasons that I said. I think how you really start to get the rocket onto Hanan is for her to be the one to stop the three-peat from Mirai. So what I'm trying to say is Amber went with Mirai, I went with Hanan.
I think whoever you go for here, there's reasons. Like Mirai, it could be a case where I don't think she's doing the three-peat. Either way, I don't think she's doing the three-peat. I don't think she's got enough support for that to be a huge deal. Does that make sense? Like, I don't feel like, if it was an Utami or a Mayu or something like that, I feel like there's enough of a buzz around it. Or even if it was someone like a Starlight Kid or something like that, I don't feel like there's enough fanfare around Mirai to give her this incredible thing. And also, back-to-back, incredible. 3 in a row, is that just becoming a little bit boring and predictable? I can see them getting Mirai through to the final. But spoiler, I don't have it happening here on my bracket because, as I've already said, I am in complete agreement with you, Matt. I see this being the coming out party for Hanan. So that starts with a big victory over a former white belt champion in Mirai. We move then to the next second round match, and this is bloody difficult to call. So Starlight Kid. Have we all got Starlight Kid versus Suzu? We have. Starlight Kid versus Suzu Suzuki. Matt Turner, good luck.
Yeah, again, this is a tough one. My wife had a very good reasoning why she picked Suzu Suzuki. She had a very great reasoning why. Because the Mirai Suzu Suzuki matchup, that if that were to take place on this, obviously if Mirai is able to go on to the next round, so Mirai and Suzu Suzuki have great chemistry. Obviously, they're very hard hitting. They can tell that simple story that that would draw a lot of fans in. So Amber has Suzu Suzuki going through. This is a tough one because I was kind of looking at her logic on it. Suzu versus Hanan would be great, but I think coming off Starlight Kid's almost, basically near miss against Soriano for the Wonder of Stardom Championship back at the 13th anniversary show, Supreme Fight, I think they're going to use this tournament to build her back up a little. Again, this is another tough one. Like, this side of the bracket seems so hard to predict, but I actually have Starlight Kid defeating Suzu Suzuki in this match.
As do I. And again, that variable of over the top rope, I feel like that to a certain extent saves some of your bigger talent, some of your main event talent from embarrassment, and potentially gives the opportunity for lower card wrestlers to usurp them. We saw it with Julia a couple of years ago, where she was eliminated over the top rope in the early goings. We saw it with Saya Kamatani eliminating Tam Nakano in 2021. It can happen, and a heel Starlight Kid with a weather tie at ringside, there is lots and lots of opportunity for an over-the-top rope elimination. All Suzu Suzuki has got to do is get on the apron, and suddenly you've got the entirety of a weather tie yanking her off the apron. So for that reason, for the reason that you said, again, this could be your, not necessarily rehabilitation of Starlight Kid. She's just had a white belt match. But this, again, it could be your sort of, this is what we're doing. This is who we are putting our money behind. This is our merch mover. Give her more exposure. And I'd be more than happy with that. We move on then. So we have got Matt Turner. Your bracket stands at Momo Kogo versus Waka Tsukiyama. Who do you have and why?
Yeah, Battle of the Underdogs. The same reason why I thought Momo Kogo would defeat Xena is they seem to be putting a little bit oomph into Momo Kogo, which I'm all for. Let's kind of create new stars here. And I guess pun intended, because she's part of stars. I didn't mean to do that. But I have Momo Kogo going through the next round. As far as my wife goes, I think it's just poor Waka. I think that would be her reasoning behind it. And that's why she has Xena going through to the next round.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I completely agree. Be a nice little EXV sort of Civil War match, but yeah, Waka at the moment seems to be sort of treading water again. There was huge amounts of momentum behind Waka in last year's tournament after rolling up Nanai Takahashi in that New Blood Premium match, but she hasn't quite reached those heights. Obviously, she's only just come back from injury, but they're clearly very high on Xena as your sort of powerhouse Gaijin. So I can see Xena being that there in this match as well. So the last match on this left-hand side, then we've all got Koguma versus Hazuki. Matt Turner, I don't even think I need to ask you who you've got for this match.
No, bet with my heart, my man. Again, this will be a great match. They had a great match at the semifinals of this tournament back in 2022. However, unfortunately for Kagama, I don't think it's going to result in the same result for her, as I have Hazuki, as does one Amber.
As does one Mr. Robert Goodwin as well. I'm almost just wishing it into existence now, because it needs to happen soon. Whether it's this tournament or not, I don't know. I mean, when the tournament bracket was announced, I was like, oh, it's Hazuki's tournament. Especially with, leaving out tournament favorites and leaving out champions. But the more I look at it, the more I'm like, oh, they're not going to do it. Oh. And I don't know if I'm just being negative or if this is my Azumi sort of PTSD coming through. I don't know. Let's move on then to the other side of the bracket. We've got Mei Seira versus Saya Iida. Matt Turner, who have you got and why?
Saya Iida is going to chop the hat, or not, no, that's Mei Sakurai. Saya Iida is going to chop the high speed out of Mei Seira. That's going to be a great match. You talk about two contrasts in styles, but at the same time, Saya Iida is so explosive, and the high speed champion is very underrated when it comes to the striking. That's why I have Saya Iida, and my wife also has Saya Iida picking up her second win in this Cinderella tournament.
It's what I like about this tournament. It does create new stars, and that's what I know they are looking at going back to. That's what Okada said during the press conference. So, on that alone, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me to see Saya Iida make it through here. I know that they are very hot on Mei Seira, but at the moment, if she loses here, again, goes to the top rope looking for one of her high-speed maneuvers, it just takes Saya Iida to shove her off the top rope. Again, we've seen Mai Iwatani, for example, get eliminated in that way. We've seen all sorts of people eliminated that way. There's no shame in being eliminated that way. Do you know what, Matt? I'm jumping aboard this Saya Iida train, and I'm also going for Gorilla Power Saya Iida as well. That brings us to Lady C versus Ami Sourei for all of us, Matt.
Yeah, this should be another really, really good one. Ami Sourei and Lady C, they were part of the Tokyo Towers in last year's Goddess of Stardom Tag League. And whenever they do Queen's Quest versus God's Eye in the multi-person matches that we see, Lady C and Ami Sourei always have really good exchanges. I think it could be low-key one of the best matches of the tournament. However, I think just based on the little push that Ami Sourei got coming off the back end of the 5-star Grand Prix and just how great her match was with Micah at the Cork and Hall show for the tournament to go on to be the challenger for the World of Stardom Championship at the end of the year. I think they're going to heat Ami Sourei up a little. So I have Ami Sourei getting the win here, and looks like so does Amber.
Okay. Now, this is where I think I'm making a massive mistake. And I don't know. Well, Well, at the moment, our brackets look very, very similar, and I don't like that. Do you know what? I'm going to go with the Great Car C.
Whoa. The C, remember last year when I said the C stands for Cinderella?
The C does stand for Cinderella. I just think, we're on about creating new stars. And again, Lady C doesn't have to get the pinfall over Amizuri. We can just have over-the-top rope elimination. It's only the final where that doesn't apply. So, yeah. I mean, and that means, for me at least, you've got a quarterfinal of Lady C versus Saya Iida. Amizuri made it through to the semi-final last year. So, she's already heated up. She's already 1/3 of the Artist of Stardom champions. Give the rub to Saya Iida. Give the rub to Lady C. So, do you know what? I've talked myself back into that choice. Azumi versus Natsuko Tora, Matt.
This is a match I'm a little nervous about just because of my love for Queen's Quest and especially one Azumi. You mentioned about the Oedo Tai interference. If you remember last year, it was the second or third round that Tora eliminated one Tam Nakano because of the interference from Oedo Tai on the outside. That's a possibility. But in Queen's Quest, we take care of our own. So does this, about 3 or 4 minutes in, turn into an all-out brawl between Oedo Tai and Queen's Quest on the outside? Could be. It could be. But maybe I'm betting with my heart here. Because, again, I think Tora is doing a phenomenal job as a true badass heel in Stardom, which is what Stardom absolutely needs. But I just think there's too much invested in Azumi, especially the fact that she's coming over here in the States and doing a whole plethora of shows. And she might be working Ring of Honor and or AEW. So I don't think it would make sense to eliminate Azumi on her first match in the 5-star Grand Prix. Again, this is a very contrast in styles where you have the high-speed style of Azumi versus the very hard-hitting of Natsuko Tora. Should make for a fun match, but I have Azumi, and so does Amber.
Yeah, this is another one we all agree on. Azumi, I feel like at least has to make it to the quarterfinals. She's a huge star. And, Tora has made it through to the final of this tournament before. She, we've rejuvenated her character somewhat. She had a fantastic match with Julia in Korakuen Hall for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. So, let's give someone else the rub. I think Azumi goes over here. Again, especially with the way Azumi wrestles with those roll-ups, I think that's more than a sensible way to go in terms of that. And then we've got Miyu Amasaki versus Mai Sakurai, Mr. Matt Turner.
Sakurai versus Mai versus Miyu. Say that 10 times fast. Again, this should be another fun one, just because it looks like both these wrestlers may use this tournament to be elevated. But at the same time, I just think they just got too much invested with Sakurai to have her lose in her first outing. I have Mai Sakurai getting the win here, and it looks like so does my bride.
Interesting. Okay, so my thought, as I've sort of said throughout this bracketology, is that I want to create new stars. Okay? I want to, effectively put people in there that you wouldn't expect, which is why I've got Lady C beating Amisori. I'm going to go Miyu Amasaki here. Miyu Amasaki, there's a lot of momentum behind her. She's improved massively. Again, with it being over the top rope and things like that, I feel like there's nothing lost in Mai Sakurai losing. Plus, we've seen before, I know that I've, myself, when doing predictions, have said, oh, well, they'll want Mai Sakurai doing her shtick. We've seen before that it doesn't matter whether she wins or loses. She will do her shtick, irrelevant. So I don't think there is much funnier than Miyu Amasaki eliminating Mai Sakurai, about to do this huge address, and then Mai Sakurai pushing her out of the way and doing hers anyway. She seems to be treading water a little bit, Mai Sakurai. She's taken a few more pinfalls than before. She's not really in any title pictures. People like Mai Sakurai. I think this could be a chance to really heat up Miyu Amasaki instead. So, warily, I have gone for Miyu Amasaki, though I am very, very aware that could go horribly wrong for me. which is fine. Right, so just as I correct Amber's bracket, because I've done it wrong. There we go. Let's move on then to what will be the quarterfinals. So, Matt, at the moment, your quarterfinals, just to recap, are Hanan versus Starlight Kid, Momo Kogo versus Hazuki, Saya Iida versus Amisori, Azumi versus Natsukatora, and Mei Sakurai, versus Azumi. So let's start with Hanan versus Starlight Kid. Who have you got progressing there?
This is so tough because they've been doing a great job building up Hanan, and I know there are a lot of fans, a lot of our listeners, friends and family, the Stardom cast that have Hanan going to the finals or even winning the whole thing, which I can absolutely see. It's a coin flip for me, but I'm going to say Starlight Kid wins this to make it to the Final Four.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. That puts the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons, certainly. Now, what has your dear wife gone for?
You have Mirai versus Suzu Suzuki, which, if that does happen, what a great match. But very much like how we said a few weeks ago that before they announced the brackets, that Mirai going into the Final Four on the pay-per-view would be a great story to tell if she can three-peat. That's the reason why she has Mirai making it to the Final Four, getting the win over Suzu Suzuki.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I also have Hanan versus Starlight Kid, but I think I've already made my views clear on this. I think Hanan is going to the Final Four, at the very, very least, if I'm perfectly honest. So I think it'll be a great match. I think Starlight Kid versus Hanan is going to be a tremendous match, in fact. But I think it's Hanan's time now. We talked a lot about how she's a star in the making. She's a star in the making. She's a future race. She's a future icon. Let's start building some momentum behind that, especially if she's one that's touted to stay in Stardom. What time is better than right now? So I've got Hanan as the first person into the Final Four. Matt, your next quarterfinal is Momokogo versus Hazuki. Am I right in thinking that this is where the Peach Train comes screeching to a halt?
The Cinderella story. Clock strikes midnight. Or the clock strikes Hazuki mode. Yeah, Hazuki defeats her fellow star member, sending Hazuki into the semifinals.
I think you can tell a good story there, especially with Momokogo being one of someone who was trained by Hazuki. And, there was that very cool storyline that we had where Hazuki was very, very dismissive of Momokogo and telling her how she wasn't putting in enough effort. I feel like with all this training that she's doing, with all this effort she's putting in, you can really tell a story of her pushing Hazuki to the time limit for this match. I think that would be a really cool story. But yeah, I also think that Hazuki is making her way through to the Final Four. Is Amber of the same opinion, or is she going with Xena?
She's going with Hazuki, but now that I look at it, boy, what a fun match that'll be, Hazuki and Xena. And correct me if I'm wrong, buddy, Xena's first match back was a clean pinfall over Hazuki in a multi-person tag match. So you can kind of tell that story where it's like Xena kind of might have the psychological advantage because she does have a clean pinfall win over Hazuki. But yes, it looks like all three of us, we all have different people for our first semifinalists with Starlight Kid, Mirai, and Hana respectively, but looks like all three of us are on the Hazuki train as well.
Yeah, I know where I'm going with my semifinal, and I hate myself a little bit for that, but we'll get into that in a moment. So
don't hate yourself, buddy. You're a good person.
Thank you, man. So you've got Saya Iida versus Amisori as your next quarterfinal, Matt. Which way are you leaning there?
Rob, this tournament, I bet a lot with my heart. Unfortunately, I use my brain a little bit with this one, which actually is kind of funny when I use my brain. Anybody that knows me, no, don't get me wrong. I love me some Amisori, but I love me some Saya Iida. I just think Amisori, I think it'd be a nice story to tell the fact that Amisori makes back-to-back semifinals in the Cinderella tournament and basically makes her like a mid-carder. That's somebody to watch out for. So I have Amisori going to the semifinals.
Back-to-back semi-finals for the Magnificent One. What about your darling wife? She has also got Saya Iida versus Amisori. Who has she got going through?
My wife just seems to be a huge fan of Saya Iida because she understands her
Yes,
work
Amber.
ethic. And
Yes, Amber.
yes, and she has Saya Iida going over Amisori, putting the gorilla and supposedly someone who's going to be main eventing WrestleMania against Seth Rollins. She has Saya Iida making it to the pay-per-view in the semifinals.
Yeah, obviously we are running out of time now for Saya Iida to make her challenge to Seth Rollins, but I am expecting it on the next couple of episodes of Raw. I've got Saya Iida versus Lady C. I would love to see the Great Car C making her way to the semi-final, but for me, I am also huge on the Saya Iida train, so I have Saya Iida making her way out of what will be an incredible chop fest to make her way to the semi-finals. And then fourth and finally, to fill that final semi-final spot, Matt, you've got Azumi versus Mai Sakurai. I probably know who you're going for there, mate.
It's going to be Mai Sakurai is going to put the hat on Azumi and roll her up. No, even if that happened, I think Azumi, she's such a master of it. Can you imagine that spot? She would reverse it and
that
pin
would
Sakurai.
Be incredible. Why has she not done that?
Maybe she doesn't want to ruin the hat just yet. At the same time, she
Maybe.
can come out with different hats. Anywho, we can do a whole podcast on Mai Sakurai's hats. But both myself and Amber both have Azumi going through to the semifinals.
Yeah, I think it's I say it's a safe bet. It hasn't worked for me in the last 4 years, but there we are. So Amber had Azumi versus Mai Sakurai as well. You have Azumi going through. Now, this is where I edge my bets. Because I'm going Miyu Amasaki.
Whoa. She gets the robe and you're all on the Miyu Amasaki train, brother.
Oh, or do I? Yes, I am. Do you know what? I am. I'm going Miyu Amasaki into the semi-finals. O2 line explode. I just think this is, it happened with Unagi in 2021. It happened with Waka Tsukiyama in 2023. I feel like you can really make someone in this tournament. Yes, it's going to suck that Azumi doesn't win another tournament or doesn't make it through to the semi-finals. She probably will, because I predicted she won't, but that's beside the point. I think you can do really, really good work here with Miyu Amasaki making it through to the semi-finals, which means that our semi-finals for that pay-per-view are, Matt, you have got Starlight Kid versus Hazuki and Amisori versus Azumi. Amber has got Mirai versus Hazuki and Saya Iida versus Azumi. I have got Hanan versus Hazuki and Saya Iida versus Miyu Amasaki. Oh, God, I'm going to suck at this. Matt.
Now, Rob, I'm going to buy you some time. So, remember, we have a guest Final Four. So, none other than friend of the show, Karen Peterson, has her Final Four. Karen Peterson, who will also be forwarding the book Chasing the Dream by my good friend Rob Goodwin, which will be available on Stone Cold Steve Austin Day 316. She has entered her Final Four. Her Final Four are as follows: Starlight Kid versus Hazuki and Amisori versus Azumi. The same Final Four that I have.
Interesting. Say that again once more, because you cut out a little bit then.
She has the same exact Final Four as me. Starlight Kid, Hazuki, Amisori, and Azumi.
Oh, but she's so much brighter than me. Oh, I've made errors.
To be fair, Karen's brighter than pretty much everybody. She is a smart. Why she's friends with us, we don't know, but we'll take it.
Absolutely. We drag her average IQ down by a significant amount. Right, Matt, let's start with you then. Starlight Kid and Hazuki, who have you got going through?
Again, maybe because I'm betting with my heart, Hazuki. I got Hazuki making her way to the finals. So does Amber. Amber does have Hazuki defeating Mirai in the semifinals, going to the finals. as one does Karen Peterson. So not that we want to sway your vote, Mr. Rob Goodwin, but myself, Amber, and Karen Peterson all have Hazuki going to the finals.
Do you know what? I blame Scotty Wrestling because he's got in my head now with Hannon.
He is Karen Peterson smart. He is on the same level of as far as when it comes to thinking logically about Stardom. It's one Scotty Wrestling. So I mean, I'm just throwing that in there, my man.
The thing is you've got Hazuki, who is very much the bridesmaid, never the bride. You've got Hannon, who is 19, got all this upside. Oh, do you know what? It's one of those where whoever comes out on top, I'm happy. It doesn't particularly bother me. I would love to see Hazuki make the final, win the match, and then go on to presumably Philadelphia to go for the white belt. However, and this kills me to say, having already eliminated Azumi, I'm going to put Hannon through to the final.
Wow.
And I can't quite believe I've done that because my bracket looks least likely now. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Matt, who have you got going through from your other semi-final of Amisori and Azumi?
With Amisori and Azumi, I am going with Azumi. So is one Karen Peterson. So not only do we have the same Final Four, we have the same finals. Now, the reason behind that is I'm looking at this as not only as a fan, but from like a business perspective of what would be the best finals match to have. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. That really is never ever the case. But obviously, I'm a massive fan of Hazuki. Again, her winning the white belt sometime this year would just be, I would cry tears of joy. And then obviously Azumi is just one of my favorites, not only just as Queen's Quest, I just think that she's just an incredible talent. So I think that would be, from a fan perspective, that is the finals I want to see the most. And I also think that would be the one that would draw most interest for Stardom as far as pay-per-views, as far as Stardom World subscriptions once this, a couple days after the tournament final happens. And not only that, you can tell the story that these two were locked in the first round last year. And it was one of the most insane double over the top rope finishes I've ever seen in all of wrestling, with Azumi hitting the Azumi Sushi, and the fact that two of them were able to hit the floor at the same time with the speed they did, and nobody got hurt. So you can literally tell that story where they literally had a double elimination in round one last year, and now they made it all the way to the final. So both myself and one Karen Peterson have Hazuki and Azumi in the finals, which then takes it over to my bride. She has Azumi versus Saya Iida. Boy, what a great match that would be. Obviously, Azumi has shown that she can really strike with the best of them. But it looks like that my bride is in the same boat as me and one Karen Peterson, as all three of us have a Hazuki and Azumi final.
Wow. I really am the outlier in this, aren't I? Jesus. Now, again, do I want an Azumi versus Hazuki final? Hell yes, of course I do. However, I'm going a little bit of a different route, and this might be complete and utter nonsense. However, I've got Saya Iida versus Miyu Amasaki, and I've got Saya Iida making it through to the final, meaning that we've got Wing Gory facing off in the final.
That is an out of left field pick. That is absolutely fantastic. When this episode airs, I think a lot of people may be agreeing with us one way or another, meaning Azumi, Hazuki, Hanan. One of those three will probably make it to the final four. I don't think anybody will have a all Wing Gory final. And what a better way to elevate talent than have Saya Iida, who's basically been the MVP of a lot of these shows, especially in Corkin, the last month or two. Hanan is someone that you can tell they've been earmarking for big things. Why not earmark her now? That is a great shout, my man. That I would not, as much as I want to see a Hazuki Azumi final, an all Wing Gory final with Hanan and Saya Iida, that's tremendous, because whoever walks out, win, lose, or draw, both Saya Iida and Hanan are now going to be elevated to that upper mid-card level.
That's the thing, Stardom management and Bushiroad management have made it very, very clear that that's their gambit now. They want to try and elevate talent in this Cinderella tournament. I think it's a great edict to have. And I think, there's no better way of doing that than Hanan versus Saya Iida. Now, of course, if this goes spectacularly wrong and Hanan's immediately eliminated by Mariah, I shall blame very vocally Scotty Wrestling. But until then, Matt Turner, Hazuki versus Azumi. I think I know who you're voting for because you have voted spectacularly with your heart, my friend.
Now, Rob Goodwin, myself, Amber, and Karen Peterson all have the same final. However, we all have different winners. And you might be saying, Matt, how is that possible? Because there only can be one or two winners. Now, I love Karen Peterson. I'm going to get this out of the way. Her overall winner, and what a cop-off this is. And again, Karen, we absolutely love you. You are the best. Overall winner, Hazuki or Azumi, with basically whoever loses winning this year's 5-star. So she doesn't give a clear winner. But however, what a great story that would be. Say is that Hazuki wins the Cinderella tournament, and then you build Azumi down and then build her back up to win the 5-star. That's never happened before, and I think that'd be really something different. Yet smart booking, where either Hazuki or Azumi are ever so close of winning one of the big tournaments, only to break them down to win them, to build them back up to win the, no disrespect to the Cinderella tournament, to win the biggest tournament in Stardom. So I like her train of thought. However, she didn't give a winner. So
Coward.
I don't know.
Cowardice.
I know. At the same time, you say coward, I may say genius. She might be genius. You know where I'm going with this one. And again, if I'm going with Hazuki. If it is Azumi, obviously I will be thrilled because I'm a huge fan of Azumi. I just think this is the right thing to do for Hazuki. She's been teasing that she wants to win the Wonder of Stardom Championship. They've been kind of teasing a little bit since the beginning of the year with her and Soriano. I think this is the tournament to do it. I would love for her to challenge Soriano in Philadelphia, which I love me some Soriano, and I pride myself on being a professional, Rob. But if that match does in Philadelphia, I will be the loudest one there leading the Hazuki chant. So I have Hazuki winning the Cinderella tournament. Again, Karen Peterson did not give us an exact winner. My wife went the opposite way and basically went with your usual pick. She has Azumi winning the Cinderella tournament.
Okay, interesting. So that means that my final, as already stated, is the Wingori powers explode. And unsurprisingly, considering I've been championing her for the last hour of the podcast, I am going with a Hanan victory, pinning Saya Iida to become the 2023 Cinderella tournament winner. So, Hazuki or Hanan? It's very much being asked, which ice cream flavor you want. There isn't really a loser there. If we are to get Hanan or Hazuki as the winner, I think there is going to be some very, very, very happy people. I can't see many people being sad if we have either of those two win. Of course, we're not going to have a Hazuki and Hanan final because we can only get to the semi-final before they meet each other in the blocks. However, Matt, how are you feeling about your bracket?
I feel pretty good, but I felt really good about it last year. I think I had Mina in the finals. I think I Shuri versus Suzuki in some sort of big main pay-per-view match. But maybe the fact that we took out a lot of these big the constant main eventers to give more of a push to somebody here. I really like my bracket. I like the way some of these matches are going. I think that a lot of people will be happy with a lot of different winners. I think that if Hanan wins, Starlight Kid wins, Hazuki wins, I'm just going through, if Saya Iida wins, obviously we'd be thrilled. Azumi, I think that, there's 5 or 6 people that could win this tournament that I think a lot of people would be happy for. I am just looking for somebody to be elevated, which it doesn't matter who wins this tournament. Everybody is going to be elevated. I just want to see somebody elevated, more than one wrestler, elevated to the next level and just some really, really good wrestling, which it's Stardom. I mean, they would have to try hard not to give us good wrestling. So I'm pretty confident in my bracket. The fact that me and my wife are a little bit off on some of the things, she doesn't like that because she likes it when she's very competitive. And I filled out my bracket, and then the very next day she filled out her bracket. So it's going to be interesting, that top corner with Mirai, Hanan, Starlight Kid, Suzu Suzuki, to see how that one shakes out as far as who comes out of that part of the bracket into the final four. So I feel pretty good about my bracket. Your bracket is, again, out of left field, but at the same time, I'm super excited to see if any of those comes out. And I do want to make mention, neither me or Amber have any double countouts or any time limit draws, which is really interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah, there's not a chance that this tournament goes through without a double elimination somewhere, or a time limit draw somewhere. Where it is, I don't know. Maybe Xena and Momo Kogo. Maybe. Maybe it's Yuna Mizumori and Lady C. I don't know. It's up in the air. It's up for debate. We will see. But Matt, before we sign off, before we say goodbye to the people, it's only Io and Kairi watch.
Yeah, we have not one, not two, but three segments on Io and Kairi Watch. We have SmackDown, we have Monday Night Raw, and we had just last night, as of this recording, NXT Roadblock. And as I was watching last night when I was doing my notes, Io and Kairi Watch, we got a message from not only Darren Chatton, but Ethan Black, who both said, hey, Matt, you might want to watch NXT tonight because Kairi and Asuka are defending the tag team championship. So just a shout out to both Darren, who's fantastic, and Ethan, who really champions the show, to make sure I didn't miss anything. So Io and Kairi Watch, segment number one, we go to SmackDown, where the very much anticipated match of Damage Control explodes as Kairi and Asuka take on the team of Bayley and Dakota Kai. Non-title match. Kairi and Asuka jump Bayley to start the match. Eventually, Bayley gets a little bit of a shine, but it's all too much as the tag champs are able to double team Bayley, and Bayley does a great job selling for both Kairi and Asuka, knowing where to bump and ring position. She does a great job on the little things. Obviously, Bayley's a main eventer, but making the tag champs look better than they already do. Eventually, Bayley gets a little bit of a shine. She goes to tag Dakota Kai, and to the thing that nobody saw coming, Dakota Kai jumps off the apron, does not tag in Bayley, turns on Bayley, thus joining Io Shirai's version of one Damage Control. The match is thrown out as a no contest as Io, Asuka, Kairi, and Dakota Kai beat down Bayley, thus furthering the storyline going into their match for WrestleMania. So I thought that was done very well. There's a backstage segment shown a little bit later on in the show where Damage Control is just so happy, so proud of themselves. They bump into Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill stares down Damage Control. Eventually, Adam Pearce comes in. Or not Adam Pearce, excuse me, Nick Aldis basically says, we don't have time for this. I'll deal with Damage Control later. Jade, I need to talk to you. So I know a lot of people were messaging me saying Bayley does not have any friends. This is the perfect time at WrestleMania to bring one Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, back, and I absolutely agree. However, she's clearly signing with AEW. They would not have made that show next week called, Boston or Boss Time or whatever it's called if they're not bringing her in. It's one of the worst kept secrets in all of wrestling. So clearly Mercedes Moné has signed with AEW and is probably going to be doing some work with New Japan and Stardom as well. So interesting to see that it looks like they're going to maybe thrust Jade Cargill into being kind of one of Bayley's people that's going to help her, ward off this 4-on-1 advantage that Damage Control has. So, interesting stuff. We go to Monday Night Raw this past Monday. We get a backstage segment where, once again, Damage Control is walking around like they own the place, and it's former Ring of Honor wrestler and NWA heavyweight champion Adam Pearce says, what are you guys doing here? You belong on SmackDown. Dakota Kai, who's basically like the mouthpiece now of Damage Control, says, hey, Pearce, Kairi and Asuka are the tag champs. They can go to any promotion they want, and we're going to be keeping a close eye on the tag match between Kance and Kanazawa versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. So Damage Control are at ringside for that match. It's a really, really good tag match with Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark getting the win. Damage Control goes into the ring, pretends like they're going to jump Shayna and Zoe, but Dakota Kai grabs the microphone and says, next week on Raw, Asuka and Kairi will put up the belts against Shayna and Zoe. And Damage Control will be defending the tag team titles. So, and Zoe Stark. So obviously that is going to be a great match. Shayna Baszler, that's going to happen on Monday. So I'm super excited to watch that one and then give you kind of the Io Kyrie watch next week on that one. Obviously Shayna Baszler has that MMA background, which I love, and is a one-time challenger to Io Shirai's World of Stardom Championship back when Io had that famous V14. And I'm very, very impressed with Zoe Stark. I'm very high on her. And Io and Zoe Stark were former NXT tag champs together in NXT. So interesting stuff there. So now we go to, I'm sorry, I am not done. So once again, we are backstage at Raw, and Damage Control walking around like they own the place, because they should. And all of a sudden, who comes into the frame but one Rhea Ripley, the Raw Women's Champion. She looks right at Io and says, "Io, stay in your lane." And Rob, you know what Io says back to one Rhea Ripley?
Go on.
She says, "Bye, poi." And then Rhea Ripley says, "What is bye, poi?" That last part didn't happen. They do have a stare down. So maybe somewhere after WrestleMania, because I expect Io to drop her title. I don't know what they're doing with Rhea, but I would love to see a program with Io and Rhea Ripley. I think that would be great. So that bye, poi thing didn't happen, but how awesome would it be if it did?
That would have been incredible. What a crossover event.
By the way, the Murder Pixie does return this Saturday. All right, we go to NXT Roadblock, where we have women's tag team championship match with Kairi and Asuka. Damage Control, also known as the Kabuki Warriors, defending against the NXT Women's Champion Lila Valkyrie and Tatum Paxley. I've never seen Tatum. I never seen Tatum wrestle before, but she was very, very good in this match. This match, Rob, starts out with, I'm going to put it over, a great lockup with Asuka and Lila. I thought that was some really, really, really tight wrestling there. We get a nice exchange between the former NXT champion in Asuka and the current NXT champion in Lila Valkyrie. Everybody in this match was over, but Kairi and Asuka, because it was kind of like their mini return to NXT, both former NXT women's champions, they were super over as like baby faces, even though they were heels. And they act as heels because basically Tatum Paxley gets she gets tagged in. Eventually she eats a whole bunch of strikes from both Kairi and Asuka. They build heat to her. Eventually hot tag to Lila Valkyrie. She runs all over the tag champs as well as she should, because she is the NXT champion. Eventually we get a whole bunch of double team spots. We get Lila Valkyrie going for a head kick, but she misses Asuka and hits her tag partner in the head. I'm assuming that's going to build to an NXT match down the line. She inadvertently hits her tag partner. She turns around, and guess what's waiting for her, Rob? Kairi with a cutlass, taking her out. Eventually, Kairi and Asuka hit the assisted insane elbow to Tatum Paxley for the 1, 2, 3. And Rob Goodwin. That ends what was a very interesting Kairi and Io watch. Not much Io. Again, they're building to Io and Bayley. That's where they're going to. But a lot of stuff with Kairi and Asuka as a tag team. And as we're on our way to WrestleMania, we've seen them have championship defenses on SmackDown. We're getting one on Raw on Monday, again against Shayna and Zoe Stark, and as well as we saw them on NXT. So it's nice to see that they're getting a lot of TV time, my friend.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this episode of the Stardom Cast. Whose bracket did you prefer? Who do you think is coming out on top? Who is winning your Cinderella tournament? Let us know in the comments below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to leave us a 5-star review and a comment, that would really help us out as well. If you want to subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardom Cast, you can join there for as little as $1 a month, and that gives you every episode early and ad-free. You can find us on all sorts of social media at The Stardom Cast. Don't forget to check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com, when new stuff is dropping all of the time. Stuff is being updated all of the time. We want to make it a one-stop shop for all things Stardom, stats and history and all sorts of things like that. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can at Real Rob Goodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off.
Absolutely. Questions, comments, anything you need from me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter. And don't forget, folks, myself and Andy Header will be returning to tag team action this Saturday in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania for Extreme Hybrid Wrestling. So if you're in the area, come on out and support some independent wrestling. Also, if you want to get a hold of me via email, the StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, that'll wrap it up for another great episode. Thank you all so much for the fantastic support you show us on a daily basis. Don't forget, Rob Goodwin's book, Chasing the Dream, comes out on Stone Cold Steve Austin Day, 3/16. Buy Rob's book, drink beers, and give stunners. And I don't think that's a better way to end the show than that, my friend. Like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all in this together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.